My name is Kenneth Connelly. I'm a former law enforcement officer, but more importantly, I'm a former abducted child. My case, as well as my brother's, was a very defining case in this state, as well as nationally, due to the fact that it dealt with parental abduction across state lines, resulting in a felony conviction. On October 10th of 1980, it was a Friday. I was waiting for my father to come pick my brother and myself up, as well as my sister, to spend the weekend with him. My mother had left a note saying that she was going to be gone for the weekend, so we were being allowed to go there to visit him. My brother Sam was 2.5 years old. He was next door, an apartment there, with a babysitter, an older lady. So we were there waiting. Precocious little 7-year-old, excited to see my father. He's a guy that, whenever we were together, it was marshmallows on hangers over an open fire, and hot dogs, and surfing, and staying out all night long at the beach. And I mention it because he was very much a pacifist in that time period. Yet here was a man at my door that barged his way in, looked completely insane, was barking orders. I immediately was scared, terrified. I had never seen violence. I had never seen anybody argue or fight. I was very terrified. But I remember him telling me, he says to my sister and I, he says, "Go get your clothes." And I was scrambling to get my clothes, and I grabbed some toys, and he threw the toys on and says, "You're not taking any toys. You're going to take just your clothes." So I was putting the clothes together, and I remember him saying, "Where's your brother at?" Well, my brother was next door with the babysitter. So while we were heading out to the van, he had forced his way into the neighbor's apartment, who was just adjacently 8 feet from our door. And I remember looking back and seeing him holding my baby brother in one arm, and fighting off this old lady that was a babysitter, and basically kind of picking up all our clothes that we were dropping on the way to the van. He forced me into the back of the van. This is a 1977 Dodge Tradesman, covered in brown shag. It was a red with a white stripe. I was being pushed to the back in that back couch area, and all our clothes went in there. My sister started to run and was screaming, and he had to go back and he had to get her. Then I got out and tried to run, so he had to get me. And finally, he got us all into the van. And it was at that moment I realized that the van was still on. He had never turned the engine off. He had gone from there back to his place, his house, and his roommate, a man named Bill Shaw, had met him there, and basically they packed up all my dad's belongings into the van, and we headed out to destination unknown as far as I knew. So on this road, coming out of California, headed into Arizona, which became Globe, Arizona, I remember very clear talking about how that my mother was a bitch. She was a whore. She was a slut. She was a witch, Satanist, and could think of that God had ordained him to come get us. She had left to go to Las Vegas, Nevada, and she was getting married. And he, of course, was crushing her from it. So we arrived in Globe, Arizona. I met some new cousins, who I later started calling Uncle Larry and Aunt Hall, or Aunt Katie Hall. Katie worked as a registered nurse and was also a member of the local Catholic school, Catholic church. So once they were pretty much safe and secure that we wouldn't tell on them that they had taken us. We were introduced into this education that you can observe, you can control, you can pretty much, as the perpetrator, you can manage what goes on. As I said, we were in Arizona for about a year when the FBI tracked us down, school system, as Kenny Womack and my sister Carrie Womack. I recently recovered some of the school records from back then, and they listed my mother as, I believe, deceased. The next school I went to was a Baptist Christian school, and while I was even there was three additional children who were also parentally abducted. And the fact was that, and even to this day, you can abduct a child, put him into a private school system, and they don't have to report it to the state. So the kids appear normal. They're not out wandering around during the day, they're in school. But they're in a system of education that you can observe, you can control, you can pretty much, as the perpetrator, you can manage what goes on. As I said, we were in Arizona for about a year when the FBI tracked us down. Middle of the night, once again, pulled middle of the night. Everything that we owned was left, and we were taken to New Mexico. I believe to Elephant Lake. My father went to the nearest town and was able to get a false ID card, false driver's license. And then from there, with the help of my grandfather, his father, we went to Odessa, Texas, where we had relatives.